Welcome back, folks, to another episode of Big Sky Big Takes on the Fans Nation Network. I'm your host, Colby Peterson. As always, on the show with me this week, back in the saddle, the one and only Montana Parlay. Parlay, how'd things go for you last week?
Food was good. Nice little 1.5 day off from work. It's my busy season. Or are you talking about the terrible picks I made because I thought the CAA was better than hot garbage?
CAA did not look great last week, and we'll talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. No, overall it was not a bad. I actually made up some money here there on the Grizz game. Bet against them pretty heavy. So only lost a slight amount. So overall, not too bad considering it was looking pretty awful most of the morning. My buddy who's pretty good at picking sides was most confident in New Hampshire, and we saw how that one ended up.
Yep, New Hampshire got caught. I was honestly surprised. I thought that maybe I put too much stock in the CAA, but I thought that they would handle. They played Martin, right?
Yeah.
I thought that they would handle them fairly because Martin had looked shaky at times, but should have believed in the OVC, man, because they came through. And Martin will get the chance to face your Montana State Bobcats this weekend.
Yeah, on paper it looks like a good matchup, but then again, you got to look at who the teams have played. And, Martin has done well defensively against the run against bad teams. So we'll see how well they do against the run in Bozeman. And I'll be there, so I'm looking forward to it.
Paper Hands Moonboy asking, I think, salient question, what the hell happened to Richmond, man? I did not expect that. Yeah. I fully expected Richmond to win that because I fully expected Richmond to go to Moscow this weekend to face the Vandals, but not to be. Richmond took a huge dump, and Lehigh gets to go instead. So good for them.
Yeah, that was the one that surprised me the most. Richmond was my most confident bet. I thought they should have been favored by at least 17.5 or 18.5. When the line opened up at 10.5, I jumped on it, and they lost by almost 30. So I was way off on that. They'd won 10 in a row. They looked like the best team in the CAA. They're hosting who are they hosting? I don't know. Anyway, they lost, and they lost to Lehigh. Well, okay, that was the close game, and they had a chance to punch ahead and cover 10.5 for a while. Then they gave up. They couldn't punch it in, and they gave up the score to Lehigh late. So it went from a possible late cover to a loss. So not great for me and not great for Richmond fans.
Yep.
But possibly good for Idaho.
Possibly good for Idaho. We'll kind of see how that matches up, and we'll talk a little bit about that here in just a bit. But, yeah. And then the other one that I was left shaking my head was Nova. Squeaking one out against East Kentucky. Oh, man, EKU had them. I think I saw there was like this really weird call that should have been a fumble but was not a fumble. And so because of that, Nova squeaks out the win at home, and I was just like, man, that does not bode well going into this week.
No, that was a horrific call. I think the FCS Nation account posted that. It got a lot of coverage on Twitter, but as far as I've heard, there's been no apologies, there's been no official statements, and it was a play that was, it was an obvious fumble. It wasn't even the Tom Brady tuck rule. It was literally the guy was running out and just, maybe you could say it was a pitch pass, but he had the ball underneath his chest and clearly fumbled it. So I don't know. I can't believe there hasn't been a statement made on it. I can't believe the coach didn't get arrested. He got a penalty, and all he did was run down the sideline. Like, he did not do enough wrong in my mind as a competitor, and definitely not enough to get the flag. maybe it says more about my character that to say that I would have lost my shit if that happened to me if I was coaching a game. You know, but man, that was brutal. That was brutal.
Yeah, Seth Meyer in the comments pointing out that it was bad because it was called correctly, then overturned on replay, which is mind-boggling. Because when you watch it over, it's like,
That's
no, there's no way. So just nuts, man.
that's awful.
I agree with Seth. So parlay, well, I mean, that's our kind of recap for last week. But let's get into the chat here, man. Did you want to talk a little bit about natty plans? What do you got planned for Frisco in a few weeks?
So, game is a Monday night.
Yep.
That some people were so I thought it was Sunday. What? It's Monday. It's Monday night, ladies and gentlemen. And so trying to figure out when do we get the party started. I've heard some people talking about coming in Thursday, Friday, Saturday makes a lot of sense. I haven't narrowed down my plans. I need a gain-free household. I can't have any of that scented, perfumey, shitty detergent on my pillowcases this year. So, I got to weigh my options. Do I go to a hotel? How can I be guaranteed that these shitty Airbnbs will keep quality detergent in their pantries? I don't know. So I might be a free agent right now as far as where I'm staying, but no, I'm looking forward to it to kind of have the weekend to do whatever we want. Um,
Rev's
screw
got you,
you.
bro. Don't worry.
Oh,
Rev's got you.
Rev.
I'll see you down there.
Yeah.
See you down there, Rev.
Extra gain extra scent, please. And then like if you've got some of the dryer sheets that are Gain brand too, even better. Um, no, I might have to do some. Been to Frisco now 3 times, or is it 4? I don't know. It's hard to keep track. I'm getting old, and I've never actually explored Dallas or Fort Worth or some of the other um, barbecue joints out there. I've been to Hutchins 6 times in three or four trips because I've gone multiple times on multiple trips down there. But I'm kind of looking forward to taking the weekend to explore the area a little bit more, and I'm open to some suggestions. We'll get a plan in place. We definitely will get a plan in place, and do not forget, number one, I am giving a ticket away to the best story. And I got another email today, montanaparley@gmail.com. I got another email. So we got a couple contenders. I'm going to print these bad boys off in Bozeman, old school, read them. I might bring cousin Joe in and cousin-in-law Belisha. She's a bigger football fan than all of us, just to have some judges involved, decide on, have a, you know, bring democracy together and just say, all right, this is the best story. This deserves the $200 natty ticket. So that's one ticket. Then there's 2 more I'm auctioning off. We're going to auction those bad boys off. I got to decide if I'm going to do it before the semifinal or after the semifinal. There might be a little bit of marketing and business in play because are we going to get a better price before we know Montana State? Do we take a chance if Montana State doesn't make the championship, God forbid? I might not get as much money out of those tickets, and I don't want to shortchange charity, for goodness sake. So, yeah, we're going to be auctioning those tickets off, and I'll get into more detail as the weeks progress. But somewhere around the semifinal weekend, we'll be doing that and announcing the winner for the single game of the single ticket. But that's it as far as the Natty is concerned for now. Don't want to get ahead of myself too much as a Bobcat fan.
Yeah, obviously don't want to get ahead of yourself, but no matter what happens, I'm gonna be there anyway. It's a good time. If you haven't gone, go. See you folks down there. So parlay, now it's time. Church is in session. Let's hear it.
Well, I was going to just preach against the CAA, but that would be overlooking my own conference. The CAA is terrible because their best teams have left. Appy State's been a while. JMU, of course. Wait, Appy, I don't even know, but were they? Whatever. I might be out of pie here, but JMU, obviously, the big one. Delaware now and Albany. Okay. They have like 14 15, 20, 70 teams. I don't know. Do we know how many teams are in the CAA? Appy was SoCon. As soon as I said it, I knew I screwed up there, Rev. All right. Anyway, the CIA sucks, but you know what? That should have been expected. You know, the one not enough people are talking about is NAU. And what I'm preaching to myself, I'm looking at myself in the mirror. That was free money. NAU did not play Montana State. NAU did not play UC Davis. NAU lost to the Grizz. Okay? They beat up on the absolute worst teams in the Big Sky. And somehow that earned them, okay, they got into the playoffs. There's a lot of teams in the playoffs that just weren't very good. Whatever. But they were favored on the road against Albany Christian, a team that held Idaho and almost beat Idaho earlier in the year. Okay. That money was sitting there to be won, and I missed out on it.
Yeah,
NAU did not deserve to be favored. NAU does not deserve to ever be in the playoffs again unless they beat one of the top three teams in the Big Sky Conference. Because
yeah,
last time this happened, they got crushed by a non scholarship team at home, San Diego. So NAU should probably be have a ban on playoffs for at least 5 more years.
yeah. That was I think disappointing, but also I think that folks maybe who had not been watching the conference closely, maybe they overvalued NAU and they undervalued Abilene Christian because Abilene Christian played a tough game against Tarleton State. I think they ended up coming up short in that game, but it's a good team, and for and if you know anything about Northern Arizona, they're a defensive team and their offense is really not very good. So them going over against Abilene Christian doesn't surprise me because their offense had been
Shut
so
up.
terrible. So, like Bernie says, NAU just sucks, man.
Yeah. So I pumped up the CAA sucks on all the message boards, but you know what? I had to look myself in the mirror as far as betting goes and at my own conference and call it like I see it.
All right. That's this week's Parlay Preaches. So let's talk a little bit about, well, you know, since we took the week off, the picks from 2 weeks ago were the final week of the regular FCS season, and we thought maybe they weren't so relevant, so we just threw them in the trash, guys. We didn't look, we don't know who won. It's whatever. We're moving on. We're looking forward, and it's time to guess the lines. Now, we thought Patty was going to be here, but wasn't able to make it, so I will stand in for him. Parlay, let's start with the Grizz taking the trip to Brookings to face the Bunnies. How do you feel about this after seeing the Grizz against Tennessee State last weekend?
Well, we can give an honorary victory to Brent because on the Guess the Lines 2 weeks ago, he brought a lot of views to the pod, and he's going to need a moral victory when his team rides into Brookings and gets whipped. I've got that line at minus 18 and a half, South Dakota State. I'm giving the Grizz 2 to 3 points based on them being the South Dakota State might have won the last two national championships, but the Grizz tech usually still get a bit of a few points. They get a few points just on name alone.
Yeah,
Still,
because they're
they
the Grizz.
still do.
I don't mind it. Minus 18.5, that's probably fair. I might just go a shade under that. And, guys in the chat here throwing out some numbers. I'm thinking maybe something like 16.5. Maybe that's too generous for the Grizz, but I guess I'm going to go slightly under you there. And we'll just see what happens. Next up,
I would
as
love
we
it if
said,
it's under 17.
if it's under 17, take it. Because, man, I don't know, man. Playing in Brookings is tough. You know that. Next up, Martin taking the trip to Bozeman, in which Parlay will be in attendance. Parlay, how do you see this one?
You know, Martin might have been the best looking team on Saturday, so I don't love that us as the number one seed has to see the team that looked the best, but it is what it is. 20.5,
Okay.
Montana State.
Montana State putting that long home win streak on the line against Martin in the second round. Definitely have to take the
Well,
Bobcats in this one.
it ain't that long. We lost our last playoff game at home.
Oh, is that right? Oh, snapped. My bad. All right, so like you said, Martin looking good, getting the best of UNH over the weekend, and so now taking the trip to Bozeman. I mean, your line of 20.5 is fair. I wonder if the number one seed is going to get them a little more, so I think I might go a little bit higher than you on this one. I think I might take 21.5 because I think maybe they will value the fact that, I mean, I just don't think Vegas knows who Martin is, so I think that they just might undervalue, and because Montana State's Montana State, they might overvalue. So next, as we talked about at the top, Lehigh getting the opportunity to take the trip to Moscow to face the Vandals in the Kibbe Dome. Interesting matchup. Parlay, how do you see this one? How do you think the books are going to look?
Well, I just think Idaho's defense against a team like Lehigh is going to look elite. Um, and Kibbe Dome's going to be a tough place to play for Lehigh late at night. Um, but Massey kind of makes me second guess. But, I got to go. Massey's got this thing in the single digits, which seems insane to me. But I'm going with what I wrote down. I wrote down lines Sunday morning because FanDuel posted the first round games Sunday. So I wanted to get them out early. And as of, you know, 9:35 Central Time on Monday, there's no lines for the second round. So I would love some consistency out of the national books, but whatever. I've got Idaho at 21.5.
Whoa, 21.5. Okay. So the Fighting X minus 21.5. I'm going lower than that, man. I don't. I, I don't know, man. I think I'm going to take a little bit lower. I think I'm going to take something around 17. The folks in this chat saying minus 17.5. That feels right. The Fighting X though, who knows? Maybe they get the love because
Yeah, Massey
yeah,
had it around 8.
8. That's crazy. I mean, and maybe it ends up being that way, but I mean, we're guessing what Vegas thinks, not the outcome of the game. So, but 21.5. That's a number. That's a number, man. Final one for the Big Sky here. Illinois State at Davis. Illinois State getting the opportunity to take the trip to Davis, who has looked impressive, save that game against Montana State. They beat SEMO, which I was disappointed at. I wanted to see SEMO win. I like Coach Tuke, and so is. But Davis at home against a Valley team in Illinois State. How do you see this one shaking out?
This in a weekend full of what should be two to three to four score blowouts. This has kind of been the one that people are reaching for to get a possible upset or at least a one-score game. Illinois State looked kind of good, but they also took advantage of, was it 8 turnovers? I know 5 interceptions for SEMO. I think it was 8 total turnovers. But I got Davis at 8.5. They've just played too many close games. I mean, they should have lost Portland State. Um, Crazy stuff happened in the last 6 minutes against Montana State, or they were getting blown out. So I've got it at 8.5. I just don't. Illinois State's too good for it to be double digits, in my opinion.
Yeah, you're right. 8 turnovers by SEMO in that game, and they still only lost by 7. So just
Yeah,
gave the game away. And so
line
that
will
leads me
probably
to
be
believe.
higher then.
Well, it just leads me to. I mean, and they are a Valley team, right? And I think that also carries some weight. But yeah, like what are they as a commodity for Vegas? I don't know, man. I kind of feel like you're right that I'd be surprised to see it double digits favoring Davis. So I'm gonna hang on. Let me make sure I record yours here. So you had Davis at. Tell me one more
Eight and
time.
a half.
8.5. Yeah.
8.5.
So I think I'm gonna go just a little bit above that. Well, am I? I think I'm gonna go under. Actually, I feel like the Valley thing is gonna maybe have some weight, and Davis has been very fraudulent in the past. So I'm gonna say minus 7.5 in this one. But if it's double digits, I don't know. I think you pound Illinois State to cover. Vegas thinks no line. Vegas thinks no line, and you know Chad's not wrong because right now there aren't any. All right. So now that's all of the Big Sky games. So we're going to look to the rest of the slate for the playoffs. So Abilene Christian getting the opportunity, their prize for shutting out NAU is going to Fargo to face the number 2 North Dakota State Bison. Parlay.
This is going to be a massacre. This is going to be the biggest spread of the weekend, and I've got NDSU minus 23.5.
Okay. I can definitely see it. NDSU is NDSU, a known commodity, a team that is, if not for a late stumble against USD, probably would have been the number 1 seed. So, ECU has been okay, though. I think I'm going to go lower than you on this one. I think I'm going to take minus 21.5 here. I think that ACU might get a little more love, but I could be very wrong, and Vegas might be like, nope, it's NDSU. We're going to jack it up because we think that they're going to crush. Next up, we have Tarleton State taking on the Yotes, who are riding high after an upset the final week of the season over North Dakota State. How do you see this one, man? Tarleton State's been good. The Yotes have been really good of late. How does Vegas look at it?
I don't think this will be close. Another 20-plus points, 20.5.
Okay. Parlay favors USD by minus 20.5. I also think USD should be favored. But I feel like Tarleton won't get the love that they should, and so I'm actually going to go a little bit higher. I'm going to say they're going to be like Tarleton, yeah, 22.5.
Ooh.
So I don't know. I just feel like they're not going to get respected. All right, next up, Rhode Island facing Mercer. Mercer getting the remnants of the CAA slate, I guess you could say. What remains of the CAA is coming to Georgia, coming to Macon. How do you see this one, Parlay?
Well, I'm sticking with my early line, even though I want to adjust it. I went too high. Mercer should win this. They've got the defense. They're at home. CAA sucks. Maybe Mercer thinks SoCon needs to teach them a lesson because they got 1 playoff team. CAA got 4? Too many, whatever it was.
Yeah.
Mercer probably doesn't have the offense to cover the spread that I wrote down, but I'm sticking with it, 12.5.
Okay. Mercer going 12.5. Yeah, I like Mercer in this one too because Rhodey struggled against Central Connecticut. They have been consistent. I think they've been pretty good throughout the season in the CAA, but knowing what we know about the CAA, it's like that doesn't impress me. So I kind of want to favor Mercer here. I think the SoCon should have had at least one more team, but I don't know. It was probably hard for the committee to put one more in just because of all these weird stumbles. Like ETSU shot themselves in the foot. Chat kind of fell apart. Western Carolina played well in a lot of games, but just weren't able to get it done in some key ones. So, yeah, I think that maybe the SoCon is a tougher league. I think for Mercer, I'm going to go a little bit lower. I think that the Rhodey's going to be overvalued. I think I'm going to go minus 8.5 here. All right, next. Interesting. Nova, the other remnant of the CAA, taking on the Word. Incarnate Word. Parlay. What's it look like?
I feel like this should have been a first round matchup and not a second round matchup, but I've got Incarnate Word at minus 11.5.
Okay. Parlay with the Word at minus 11.5. Yeah, man, Nova looked bad, dude. And I feel like it's going to be an offensive deluge by the Word. I just don't know how much respect they get by the books. I didn't really look at Southland lines this year. So I'm taking the Word. I don't know, man. I like double digits, but do I really want to go higher? Maybe I'll go slightly lower and say minus 10.5. Maybe that's my middle ground. So in terms of the bracket, that's what we got. But there is one more FCS game out there that I threw in here. Southern is taking on Jackson State for the SWAC championship. Winner gets to go to the Celebration Bowl. Parlay. How do you see this one, man? Throwing you a curveball.
Well, I heard it was the SWAC refs that made that horrendous call against Eastern Kentucky. So maybe they should have a moment of silence at the championship for those shitty refs.
R.I.P., man.
I don't follow the non-playoff conferences too much, or the CAA because of flow. But I think Jackson State generally is a better team. Generally gets a lot more action from the gamblers. So I'm going to say 16.5 Jackson State.
Okay. Jackson State, a team that, a team that really has a fan base that shows up, man. They are consistently in the top 5 in attendance. Like they're just nuts, and they're coming into this one 10-2. Southern 8-4. Jackson State, their 2 losses coming against. Let me look real fast. UL Monroe, so that's an FBS game that they lose to Grambling. Misstep there in September, but they handle business from there on out. I like JSU in this one too. I think, though, you said 19.5 was yours. I think I might go higher. I think I might go 21.5. I think that's how I'm going to go. That's the slate.
Ooh.
It's true. If you don't, make sure you listen to the Blue Bloods. Listen to Zach. They talk HBCU and they do a great job down there. Really appreciate those guys and what they do. And so if you're in Frisco this year, I'm sure Zach will be there. Make sure you say what's up to him and give him a pat on the back for all the great HBCU coverage because they do a great job. All right, Parlay, that's it, man. That is Guess the Lines. That's what we got for this week, and it's going to get progressively smaller now as the weeks go on. We're going to cut things in half each time, so enjoy what you got, man, because this is it. So we got, I don't know, what do you think? Few minutes for fan questions? How do you feel?
Yeah, I almost think it was as we were guessing the lines and going through the Idaho and the Mercer and the Incarnate Word guesses, I almost wanted to change and edit the Parlay preaches because the more I think about it, Idaho should have been the 6. Montana should have been the 11. We should have had Montana didn't get a chance to play Idaho. Montana's as bad as they were this year, they were still probably a top 12 team in the FCS. It would made too much sense to make them play Idaho, and Idaho deserved a higher seat. So that's if I had a do-over, that's what I would make my parlays preaches.
Okay, and that's a fair take, right? I think a lot of people felt that way on Selection Sunday, that Idaho probably should have been at 6. Getting 8 was maybe unfair to them. They had really done a pretty good job of playing who was in front of them in a good conference, playing tough teams, right? Like they didn't dodge Montana State. They had to play them in Bozeman. They didn't dodge Davis. They had to play them at Davis, and so it's like they played who they were supposed to, and it obviously didn't go their way, but they handled business against everybody else. So Bernie asking Colby going to the Natty. He is indeed. See you down there, man. The Rev saying the word got the higher seed because it was how they got NAU in. So NAU screwing over Idaho, I guess, because of. I mean, if we had to, if it was NAU in or Idaho at the 6, sorry NAU, I don't care about you. I'm taking Idaho at the 6. If that's the price I have to pay, sort of like I said about the Weber State Wildcats all year, it's like if a Montana win in Missoula is what we got for the rest of the season, I will give that win back. I want to win these garbage games. I will give back that one win against the Grizz in Missoula because, man, was that painful the rest of the year. So any other fan questions we got in here? No? Parlay, you got anything else that's on your mind going into this?
I'm ooh, just my brain's mushy right now. I had a long shift working today on the phone, helping some elderly people with their coverage, and it's a little draining. And planning for trip to Montana. I'm going to be there for almost 3 weeks. Uh, Going to every playoff game Montana State is going to be in, so hopefully that'll be 3 at home. And I will see everyone in Frisco. So I'm I just need to survive this week, and then nothing but football for the rest of the year. I'm looking forward to it. Looking forward to seeing some folks out in Bozeman and out in Frisco, and hope you keep coming back to Big Sky Big Takes. I've been enjoying this. Last week I needed a night off. I just needed it, and I missed it. I missed you guys.
Yeah, shout out to Bernie. Appreciate you, man. We're looking forward to seeing you guys. If you're in Frisco this year, make sure to hit us up. Love to meet up with you. Damien's got a question in here. Was North Dakota State versus the Yotes the game of the year so far? What do you think? It was a good game.
I'm again mushy brain syndrome right now. That I don't know. I think USD SDSU might have been the game of the year. I was there, so I'm a little partial to that. But that was overtime. USD should have won that game. They fumbled a snap. They missed a field goal. They made it into overtime. If they wouldn't have called timeout, I think SDSU would have kicked a field goal to extend overtime, and who knows what happens. They could have missed the field goal and lost the game. Instead, they went for it and ended up punching into the end zone and winning. So, yeah, the Rev agrees. Being there, even though I was freezing my ass off, just big-time Dumbo move not packing a ton of winter stuff. I knew better. But thankfully, I had my trusty Bobcat beanie, and someone bought me some mittens. A nice, Dean, SDSU fan Dean, bought me some mittens. So shout out to Dean. But that was a cold night, a sneaky, sneaky cold night. And most fans weren't prepared because that stadium was pretty empty in the second half. But that was a great game. Hell of a game. I'm saying game of the year was USD SDSU.
All right.
And but the one that's going to be better, the semifinals, the way it should happen, we're going to have 2 great games in the semifinals if it goes chalk, but it might not. It probably won't. College football, you never know what can happen.
It's true.
It's going to go chalk.
I feel like, though, that's one of the things about the FCS is that once we start getting into the later rounds of the playoffs, we don't usually see upsets. The teams who are the higher seeds are usually those teams for a reason, and there's a ceiling for those quarterfinal teams, right? Like, rarely do they make it through to the semis, and if they do, they're often outmatched. So if it's chalk the way we think it is, they are going to be a pair of really great games. And I won't be surprised if that happens because that's just kind of how the FCS is.
You see a lot of higher than 20-point spreads in this round typically, a lot, and some ugly games. So I don't see it being different.
Oh, the Revs tortured me, bro. Lamar Weaver State.
Damn
Oh,
it.
man. Man, the other day, was it last game of the season, Lamar played McNeese, and I was like, oh, the beat Weber State Bowl? Bull. Hate it. Beat Weber State by 2 points bowl. Terrible.
Was
Anyway.
Northern Colorado like honorary cheer squad for that game?
Such a terrible loss, man. Ed Lamb owns Mickey Mental, I guess. I don't know, bro. It is insane to me. Insane to me, dude.
That was nothing more obvious than you guys beating the Grizz at Wagriz and coming home and losing to NAU.
Losing to everybody else.
Just
literally everybody else.
Love it.
All right. Well, Parlay, any final thoughts, man, before we close it out tonight?
I've had enough thoughts for one night.
All right. Well, guys, appreciate all you guys for hopping in the chat, saying what's up to us. Always appreciate you hopping in because, like we said, the show just isn't the same without you guys. So hopping in the chat, saying what's up. Looking forward to seeing a lot of you guys in Frisco. So if you do pull up, make sure to hit us up, message us on Twitter, what have you, and let's make sure we meet up and, have beers or whatever, man, because that's what makes Frisco fun, is meeting up with all the folks you've been talking to on the internet all year and spending a little time with everybody, going to a great football game, and just that's what the FCS is all about, man. So with that, we'll close it out like we usually do. Big Sky, Big Takes. Bet the best. Forget the rest. We'll see you guys.
Go Bobcats.